All right, beautiful. We are streaming live. There's a 20-second delay on Facebook. Hi, welcome. Welcome to Rescue Your Relationship, an interactive discussion with Jen Gaudet, founder of Gaudet Coaching Services and human performance specialist and life coach, and myself, Gina Cassano, transformational mastery coach and relationship strategist, and also founder of MindShift Coaching Services. We are excited to be here today. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some real talk about relationships and what it's like in these days to be home with your partner and your family, and also try to maintain a healthy environment. So there's a lot that comes with that. I've been hearing from my clients over the last several weeks mostly, but they're home and it's difficult. And let's talk about some of the things that we can do to improve the relationship and make it a little bit more peaceful and enjoyable and lighter and have some fun. How does that sound?
Sounds like a plan to me, girl. Let's get this party started.
Yeah, awesome. So this is being recorded. We will share it out live. I'm going to send out an email to everyone who registered, and also a free gift. And I'm going to show you the ultimate relationship scorecard. So I will be sending this out with Jen and my contact information. So if there's a way that you want to get in touch with us, you'll have our websites, our emails, and we can go from there. So let me pull this up live on Facebook so we can get comments. Relationship scorecard. So I will be sending this out. Mute myself. Okay.
And is this recording? Did you say this is recording, Gina?
This is recording. So there will be a live recording that we will share out as well. And I can post that.
Fantastic. Can I just say thank you for bringing this up and this topic. It is such an important topic to start discussing. I move in circles with a lot of family attorneys, and they're seeing a rise, not just here in Houston, but all over the world in issues with relationships, increased divorce filings, and even some of the darker side of domestic violence and other things. So I truly believe that what you're doing here is just absolutely amazing. And I'm honored that you invited me to be a part, because when we start the conversation and we start to actually realize that other people are feeling the same frustrations that we have, being locked up with our spouses and our families for so long, and it becomes a discussion, it a lot of times diffuses the situation, and we find out, oh, actually, I still do love that silly nut in the other room.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, and I am so grateful for you making time to be here, because I think having a discussion is more effective. We can kind of bounce things off each other. We both have similar and different experiences, so it'll be nice to share. And then if there's anyone, I see some people joining live on Facebook, so if there's anyone has questions, just know that there is a 20-second delay, but I am monitoring the Facebook chat group as well. And for those of you who are joining live on Zoom, you know, you can come on video if you have something that you want to say and bring up and just be a part of the discussion, or post it in the chat. Either way, we want to make this interactive and engaging as possible. So, you know, when I talk about and when I think about relationships, I think about relationships in the broader aspect of there's a relationship with your partner, your intimate partner. There's a relationship with your children. There's relationship in family dynamics, colleagues, friends, neighbors. There's all different types of relationships. And working with leaders, there's relationships from the leadership perspective and also teams. So relationship building goes broader than and so far past just the relationship with your partner. It really actually starts with yourself. Who are you being? How are you showing up? You know, the who are you being is your identity based on all of the beliefs that you learned over the years through your experiences. Now, those beliefs are learned and everyone's experiences are different. So of course, there's going to be different dynamics coming up in relationships. Now you take this time, global pandemic, there's a lot of fear, worry, there's uncertainty. There's certainty that there's uncertainty, right? And all of these, yeah, and these things, like there's high emotions running. And when people are reacting or acting or not taking action out of fear and worry, that's a showstopper. Everything comes to a halt, right? It affects our central nervous system. It affects how we show up physically, how we feel. It affects our digestive system, our mindset. It causes overwhelm, stress, and anxiety, and a whole slew of other things that, Jen and I have spoken about numerous times. So getting some clarity on the relationships, what you want to be experiencing. I want to talk about creating a shared vision, the purpose of that, what that means, right? Communicating, not just communicating so you can get your point across, but communicating so that you're seen and heard, right? Not talking at someone, but having a conversation. So there's so much more to this, and I want to take the broad aspect, the bigger picture, and start breaking it down into creating a shared vision, not just for your intimate relationship. What does that mean? We'll go into that in a moment, but also how you communicate. That's a big deal. That's going to either make or break your relationship, right? So one, having a shared vision. And what that means is it's creating a shared vision of what you want for your life together, right? You might have goals and visions for what you want to be experiencing as an individual, right? So I, as an individual woman, have my own goals and visions, personal and professional, right? But my partner and I have a shared vision. We know what we want. We know what we're working towards. We're very clear. They've been outlined. They've been defined. We've discussed them almost to a point where it's like, okay, we don't need to talk about it right now. Like we're very clear on what we want and why it's important. And that's another thing, the purpose, right? And Jen and I, we talk about what is it that you want? What do you want to be experiencing and why? What's the purpose? What will having that do for you? Right? So it's so much more than just, oh, I want this, but why? Why is that important? How will that impact your relationship? How will that impact how you show up? Right? When we have what we want and we know with certainty why we want it, and it's a passion and it's deep and it comes from within, it's our authentic self, our drive and our motivation and the way we communicate and we come across. It's exciting, it's engaging. People want to listen. People want to talk. People want to share, right? Because we're very clear. We know what we want. And those are the people that I could say for myself, like, I know I look up to people who know what they want and go after it, but they're very clear on why it's important. And it's not just about money. Like, that might be a part of it, but the deeper why to doing what we do might be around, being debt free so you can have experiences. That's the why, not just to get money, right? If you're looking at it from that aspect, or to settle your debt if you're a couple and you have debt, right? It's not just about that. It's about having the freedom and the space financially to have shared experiences. How does that resonate?
I'm loving this, Gina. And can I just add to that a little bit?
Yes.
We have to be clear on our purpose individually and as a couple, and communication. Everything you're talking about ties so clearly in, because when we are in a moment like we are today, we can draw on that shared vision when we get an escalated situation where maybe we're in conflict, because that happens a lot in relationships. Crucial conversations are difficult, but if we know what our vision and our purpose is, and we have an aligned vision and purpose, whether it's with our significant other or our team, we're able to draw on that in order to open our ears and close our mouths. Because communication is about listening and not just hearing. It can't just come in one side and out the other. It's about listening, not listening to respond. It's about listening to really hear what the other person is saying, so that we can come together and say, oh, I think I hear you saying that what you really want is this. And so then we're in rapport with one another, and we feel that other person feels heard, which in return means that we'll feel heard when it's our turn to contribute.
I love that. You mean you actually acknowledge what the other person is saying?
I absolutely do, especially like Okay, full disclosure, that might not be happening with my husband right now because we had it up to here and it's really kind of quick fuse. And then we're like, hold on, step back, take a deep breath, let's come back together. But absolutely. And you may be looking at this and saying, this is over communication. No, I'm not a mind reader. Gina's not a mind reader.
We're not?
No, none of us, unless you are the superhero and that is your superpower and you can literally hear people's thoughts. We have to over communicate. And the way we acknowledge one another, Gina, I hear you talking about shared vision. I love it. It acknowledges that I've been actually listening to and processing what she said before I make a response.
Right. Yeah. How many times have you been in a conversation with someone who's cutting you off and talking before you even finished, or, you know, that they're hanging on your very last word so they can jump in. And you're like, wait, that had nothing to do with what I was just saying. Like, it just takes away the value. It really does take a route. Because what is more important, right? Getting across what you have to say or having a deep and meaningful relationship, right? Do we have to agree with everything? Or can we at least just acknowledge, accept, hear, right? We all want to be seen and heard. And how do we do that effectively? It's not easy. It's really not easy, but it's worth it once you get it down.
Yes, girl, you speak complete truth.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I always start with creating a shared vision. I believe wholeheartedly in creating a shared vision for every relationship that I have. Like, what is the purpose? What do we want to get out of our relationships? Like, some relationships I have are just, our vision is to just sit and have coffee and have some conversation occasionally. And that's perfect because it works well for us. Nobody's expecting anything more or less. That's what we've got. And with a partner, the relationship and the expectations are different. So how do you communicate that, right? What even is a shared vision? I've heard some people say that to me. It's aligning your dreams, your values, your desires together. It becomes your guide to creating a new life for yourselves as a couple, as a partner, right? Yeah.
But Gina, does this mean that I have to do all the things that my partner wants and basically we become one instead of having our own individuality?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So here's the thing. You have, you know, can I use you as an example for a moment?
Please, please.
Okay. So you have Jen and your husband, and you have your marriage, your relationship, but then you have Jen as the woman, right? And David as the man. Don't forget about those people. Don't forget about yourself, your wants, your dreams, your desires for yourself, for your life. That is separate than your shared vision with your marriage, right? Because there are things that you're going to want and you're going to want to do maybe for your business or personally, that your husband's going to go, I want nothing to do with that. And that's okay. Go and be you, Jen. Go fly your wings, flourish, fly away, spread your, right? Whatever you need to do to feel fulfilled as a woman is very different than what you need in your relationship. It's completely different. So you have your individual vision and purpose, and you have your shared vision.
And so the question that I get a lot of times is, what comes first? What's most important? Is it most important to dial in what you want and what you need and become whole yourself? Or is it more important to find that mutual and then establish?
I'll always go back to, you have to feel good. You have to feel whole. You have to be living in your authentic self. And then you can create a shared vision with a partner, right? But relationships always start with you. It starts within, working on yourself, really connecting. And I've had this conversation, I think 3 or 4 times just today about visions, right? Connect with yourself, create a moment, a space in your day, in your life where you're free from distraction. Grab a pen and a piece of paper or a notebook or a journal, whatever, and just write down, what is it that you want for you first? You first. I know that's hard for parents because it's always about the kids, or sometimes it's about the part, but it has to become you first so you can show up fully for everyone else.
Oh, absolutely. And I've given the boundaries discussion 4 times today myself. And it really, if you're there and you're listening to this and you're saying, but you don't understand, Gina, I have to take care of the kids and I have to take care of the household and I have to take care of the business and I have to take care of my spouse and it's me, me, me. I have to do all this for everybody else. And I just don't have time or energy for myself. What I have to tell you is it is the most selfish thing that you can do is put yourself on the back burner. Because what happens when you're on the back burner and you do not honor what you need and do your own self-care and have your own vision and know what you're doing, then you end up depleted and you end up doing things in a resentful manner. And our children pick up on this. Mm-hmm. Our children can sense that resentment. If we're putting everybody in front of us to the point where we're depleted, it's time for us to set a boundary. And I don't care if it's only 5 minutes. What Gina is saying is exactly right. Set that boundary and take that 5 minutes to yourself to understand who you are. If all of those people went away and you were the only person on the planet, what is it that you want and what brings you joy? And getting back in touch with that, because what happens a lot of times, and I'm seeing it and I know you're seeing it with COVID, when we're in quarantine and we're in close quarters with some people, and then there's other people that we want to be seeing, but we're physically not capable of doing that right now. Mm-hmm. The stress and the tension sends us all off into our default patterns. But as a result, we end up transferring our own crap onto everyone else. Mm-hmm. And so I may be completely in love with my husband and absolutely adore him, but I'm feeling so drained because I'm worried about all my clients and I'm worried about my family that I can't see and my friends that I can't see, that I am pushing that on him and taking it out on him. Mm-hmm. And so we really need to set the boundary and take some personal space and some self-care time to do things like, what is it that I want? And then come together and have the shared vision so that we can stop that default pattern. Mm-hmm. Because we can't move to Gina's next amazing point on communication if we don't at least break that cycle and set the boundary and hold it.
Yeah, absolutely. Boundaries, setting boundaries, yourself first. Take care of yourself first. Fill up your own cup. Give yourself space. Otherwise, overwhelm, stress, anxiety, right? Give your stuff back. Give yourself some space to clear that mental clutter. We all know what physical clutter is, right? But what about mental clutter? We need to clear that too and give ourselves space so we can actually connect with ourselves and really make sure that we're living the life that we want to live, right? Doesn't mean everything's going to go our way, but it can certainly be much smoother than trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Right?
Right?
You go ahead and try that, but don't call me right after.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work, right? So creating the shared vision, it serves as a vision for creating the perfect relationship for you. Not a perfect relationship, but what works for the both of you, right? There's the difference between perfection and having what's right for you, right? It enables you and your partner to focus on creating results and outcomes that you both want for your relationship. And it's simply the mission of your marriage or your partnership, whatever that right? So what's the point? What is the purpose, right? So here's what you want. What is the purpose? Why do we want it? Why are we together? What are we looking to experience in life, right? And it's never about one or the other, but it's about both. It's about we, when you're talking about a relationship, a partnership, right? So the vision really becomes a slogan, almost like a slogan for your relationship, right? We are striving towards the same thing, even though we still have our own personal individual goals, right? And how can they bring it? How do you create a shared vision? That's a whole nother thing, like making sure you're working towards the same goals and making sure that you're aligned, right? You clearly define what it is that you want by starting with yourself. Know what you want to experience, and then think about what you want for your relationship, right? Now let's move to communication. This is a big one. How you communicate, right? Before you start communicating your shared vision, what you want, you have to know what that is. It sounds simple. It is not easy. It is not easy. I have taken myself through these exercises and I live and breathe this, and it's still always, it's not always easy. Really connecting to What do you want? And then how do you communicate that? So someone listens, so you're seen and heard. So you develop that relationship that is not just, not agreeable, but you acknowledge and accept each other for who you are. And then you come together and you find what works for the both of you, right? It's like me, like Jen and I, we have an awesome relationship, and we can clearly say, you know what, I want to experience this. I want that. This is what we're looking for. Like, we always bounce things back and forth off each other. And it's awesome. We're very clear. It doesn't mean we have to want the same exact things, or we have to believe in every single thing the same. But we're always acknowledging and sharing and accepting and loving each other no matter what, right? It doesn't mean you're going to agree, but you always have that love for that person unconditionally. And how you communicate, right? What it is that you're saying. Are you pointing fingers? You do this, you do that. You know how many times I see that from the people that I coach, the couples that I coach, even individuals. This one does this one does that. Oh, he, she, you know, right? Yes, everyone is doing something, right? But look inward. What about you? What are you doing to make this a better environment? What are you doing? What can you do to change? How about, instead of going, hey, you know what, Jen, you do this, you do that. I can't stand it. I'm really done. Like, change everything. Do it my way, right? You're like, wait a minute, wall goes up. You've already stopped listening. But instead I could be like, I'm just going to pretend that you're my partner. I could say, hey, Jen, listen, you know, when you do X, Y, and Z, I feel like you don't care. And I don't believe that you don't care, but that's what it feels like. That's a different message than going, you know what?
Well, I like that. Every time you point, how many fingers are pointing right back at you?
Right. All of them.
You know, Gina, something that I like to think of myself, and that has been helpful to me with regards to that exact same concept, is when I find that I'm emotionally triggered, because that's what we're talking about. When somebody says something to us and we are in our feelings, or we get a hurt feelings, we're triggered. And as soon as I realize that I'm triggered, I try to imagine myself like looking from the bird's eye view of the whole situation. And what that does is it helps me get out of the emotion and reminds me that no matter if it's just me and my partner, or even if it's like a family gathering, if there's 5 people in a room and one thing is said, 5 people interpret that one thing differently. Mm-hmm. And if you go and you ask everybody, they're going to have a different perception, because we don't see things the way they actually are. We don't hear things the way they actually are. We experience things the way we are being and who we are being. And so if you find yourself triggered and you find yourself hurt, instead of just responding, I like to take a breath and get that bird's eye view and say, okay, maybe they said something hurtful because they're reacting to something I said that was causing them pain. And I know you're listening to this going, wow, this is way too deep for me. But I promise you, once you start stepping outside of that and you kind of get that bird's eye view, it's amazing what happens, because that's when you can say, hey, Gina, you know, I don't agree with what you're saying. I hear your opinion and I respect your opinion. And I think it's time to absolutely respectfully disagree.
Yeah. And be okay with that.
Exactly. And I love you, even if I respectfully disagree. And we don't have to get into an altercation. No. We don't have to escalate. That's what actually de-escalates the situation.
I love you anyway. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's respectfully disagreeing and knowing when to stop. You know what, we're not going to agree on this, and that is okay. Being okay with that. And just agree to disagree. And like, what else can you talk about? Right?
Absolutely.
Find something.
You know, artfully redirecting the conversation. That's another talk.
Oh my gosh. Yes. More to come on the Jen and Gina show. We actually have a YouTube channel going. But yeah, it's not only getting across what you want to say, right? It's putting your thoughts into words is not always easy. And it's not always easy it's easy for some people, and some people it's not easy, but pausing, that step back, what is the outcome that you'd like to have? Is it, do you want to be right? Or do you want to have a conversation? This is going to set you apart from either just having people that you know, or a relationship that you're in, or having a deep and meaningful connection. That's your rock solid person, no matter what, whether you agree or not. Right? So that's the difference. Understanding how to communicate so you're seen and heard, and the other person is still respected and appreciated no matter what, whether you agree or not, coming from a place of responding, not reacting. And that's where that step back, that pause, give yourself a minute, just pause. Think about what it is that you want to, what is the expected outcome? What is your intention? Do you want to, if you're there to be right, you might as well just leave the conversation, right? There is still help for the relationship, right? But looking inward, what is the purpose? Being able to have a conversation. Yeah. Responding and not reacting. And when you were saying that bird's eye view, you're disassociating yourself from being in it, pausing, step back, get that bird's eye view, disassociate from being in it. That's why outside perspectives, right? You get other people with different perspectives, is because they're looking at it from a different view. You can kind of do the same, detach, disassociate, and then come back to it when you have some clarity, when you've cleared the clutter out of your mind. You can breathe a little and you go, okay, even if we don't agree, I still love and respect my partner, and I just want to have a conversation. And I promise you, when you start communicating this, and I know you know this, Jen, you know, because you're also an expert in relationships, when you start to communicate from a place of love and honor and respect and the intention of building a deep and meaningful relationship, it's a whole different playing field. And that goes with your partner. It could go with family dynamics, your siblings. I know there's a lot of stuff happening with that, right? So it's really connecting to yourself and what you want, going back to being intentional and purposeful. What do you want? Why do you want it? That shared vision, and respecting and acknowledging others, and still being able to get across what you believe and what you say in a manner that's not offensive. I'm not saying tiptoe around, right? We can't tiptoe around. Let's just say, you know, we are going to disagree on some things, and that's okay. And here's what I want. Here's what I believe, and here's why. You know, we talked about our beliefs.
I'm so sorry. I just can't imagine you tiptoeing around anything. So it's
I do not tiptoe. Anyone who knows me, friends, family, clients, I am a straight shooter. I do not tiptoe around, you know, and that's one of the first agreements we make. Just know it comes from a loving place, but I'm going to tell you what I think you need to hear to get out of your own way. We need to get out of our own way. I need to get out of my own way sometimes. That's why I talk to my coaches, or you, right? Like, it's a part of who we are. It's our identity based on our beliefs that we learned over decades, right? At this point, it's been decades from our experiences. So I'm going to change that.
Absolutely. And you know, something that has been really pivotal for me, a coach of mine years ago. So David and I have not had the happiest relationship all along. And when things have gotten challenging, of course, I hire somebody, we go outside and we look for that objective perspective, because we're emotionally attached and involved. And the best advice that I ever received in regards to this, Gina, was ask yourself, how do you want to be loved? How do you want to be heard? How do you want to be seen? And once you know that, you have to be that person. You can't want something without projecting it first and actually embodying it. And so turning it around, if I feel that I'm not being seen or heard, or I'm not being loved the way I want to be loved in any relationship, whether it's with my husband, my family, my daughter, my friends, or even if the relationship's not going well with a partner in business or a colleague or a client, it's how can I love you more? How would you like to be communicated with? Because the reality is, I'm a straight shooter too. If you know me, like there is no BS in this body.
Oh, yes.
You know where you stand with Jen.
Love it.
I actually have gotten to the point, because a lot of people are intimidated by that. And a lot of people, they throw up defenses when someone is blunt with them. I have learned when someone asks me for an opinion, I say, wait, do you really want my opinion?
Oh yeah.
No. Do you really want my opinion? Because you're going to get it.
Are you sure you want this?
And it's about delineating that, because when I say that and I give them the question the second time, it gives them an opportunity to say, no, you're right. I don't want to ask you because I know you're going to be 100% honest. Right? Or yes, I absolutely want you to be 100% honest. So it's about knowing ourselves and knowing our own communication style. I am not good at sugarcoating. I can't lie. Like, everybody knows my feelings. And if I say something that's not in alignment with what I'm feeling, like, it's completely foreign to me. And everybody would know it anyway.
Yeah. It'll come out smooth, right? Yeah.
No, it doesn't work for me. And some people it works for, and they're very good at tact. I am not good at tact. And I'm happy to admit that. But what I do is, knowing my communication style, I'm going to ask Gina, listen, I am really direct, blunt to a fault, and I'm not going to sugarcoat. So I'm going to ask you again, are you sure you want to know what my opinion of this is? And that way I'm giving the other person the freedom to say, you know what, I don't want to be cut down right now, or I don't want to risk that. Let's change the subject. And it comes from that place of complete love. And so when we think that we're not getting what we need in any relationship, the first person to look at is ourselves, and how are we showing up in that relationship? So this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with boundaries. If we're depleted and we're resentful and we're doing everything for everybody and not taking care of ourselves, then even with the best of intentions, even if I'm acting from a place of pure love, I have so much depletion and fatigue and stress behind it, it could be perceived in a negative manner. And ultimately, that is the root of most of our conflict.
Yeah.
It's the way it's being perceived. It's also the way it's being portrayed. So it's our responsibility. I can't change Gina. I can't change the way Gina responds or communicates. I love Gina. Gina and I agree on a great many things. But when Gina asks for my opinion, I'm gonna preface it and say, listen, I know that I can be harsh sometimes. It's not intentional. It's completely because that's who I am. Are you sure you want to know that? And I give her that respect. I have such a tremendous amount of respect that I'm going to say, hey, what do you want? And she said, listen, you can love me best by just telling me straight and rip the Band-Aid and let's just go.
Just let's hear it. Why sugarcoat? What's fluff?
But like my husband, on the other hand, I can't do that all the time. He really loves it sometimes, and he really hates it when he's emotionally attached to something. So I know that if he asks me something that he really is passionate about, I have to say, are you sure you want my opinion? You know how I am. And I have to find a way to use words that are not going to feel like, I don't know, knives or what have you. I'm not trying to pierce his dreams. I actually trying to support his dreams.
And you know what? Great point. Your intention, knowing your intention, right? And it could also be preempting the conversation with your intentions. I'm actually supporting your dreams. I want to support your dreams. Are you sure you want to, having that part of the conversation as well. Like, I know that when I'm talking with people, it's, the first thing is, I care about you, or I want you to succeed. I want you to reach your goals. Or if it's my partner, it's, I want us to succeed together, or whatever it is. And here's what I feel. Here's what I see. Here's what I believe. And there's no fluff, it's letting them know so he can, or she can take a pause and go, okay, I'm about to hear something I might not like. Let me accept that for a moment if I can, right? The intention. Yeah. Communicating from a place of love, from a place of respect and honor, right? Knowing that the intention is good. And like you, when I'm about to tell someone something that might not feel good, I let them know when we first start working together, or we start a conversation, or if it's a partner or whomever, right? What I'm going to say may not feel good, but the intentions are X, Y, Z. It always comes from a good place. It doesn't always feel good to hear, right? Because we want to think that we're doing things the right way, or our ways are working for us, but it's not always working for us. So let's brainstorm. Let's look at a different perspective. Be open to what else is possible. It's not just it's not just about the one person, right? What else is possible? What else can I learn? How can I grow from hearing what someone else's authentic perspective is? Because listen, how good is your relationship if the people you surround yourself with, including your partner, only tells you what you want to hear? Is that a real healthy relationship? I don't want anyone telling me what I want to hear. I would like it, but I don't really want that. It would just be nice if they really meant it. Right? Yes, then I want to hear it, but I would rather hear that, I'll say it, brutal honesty, that authentic voice of you going, hey, Gina, get your head out of your ass, whatever it is, right? Get out of your own way. Let's stop, pause, step back, and let's get a different perspective. Let's see what else might be possible. And it's not them solidifying what they think I shouldn't be doing, but it's creating the perspective of, wait a minute, what else might be possible?
I think you bring up a very important point. In every communication, in every relationship, especially during conflict or when we are emotionally charged, we seem to see everything as an either or.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, I think what we've been trying to get across is when you're emotionally charged or when you're in conflict, if you take a deep breath and you remove yourself with that bird's eye view, you can actually see that it's not either or, but there are actually other possibilities that maybe you haven't explored. Because let's use Jen and Gina. Jen and Gina are fighting over something, the color of Gina's shirt. She says it's red, I say it's blue. Or actually, she says it's green, I say it's blue. You guys can all obviously see it's red, right? So we're arguing, no, it's green, no, it's blue, no, it's green, no, it's blue. We take the bird's eye view. Okay, but for the sake of this, okay, Gina, I love you. And because I love you and I completely disagree with you, I respectfully disagree with you. And Gina can say the same thing. And when we get to that point and we've diffused the emotion and we respectfully agree to disagree, and then we both kind of remove for the situation, what other possibilities are there? And some random person is walking their dog behind us and goes, hey, I love your burgundy shirt. And both of us were wrong. It wasn't about being right. It was about agreeing to disagree. And then we were like, oh, burgundy, I didn't know that was a color. What a beautiful color. And all of a sudden we're in agreement. But it requires stepping back and diffusing the emotion, having that respect and that come from. How do I want to show up in this conversation? And the beautiful thing is, in any relationship, in any conversation, when you choose to separate yourself, to take the higher ground, to take a deep breath and say, you know what? Because I love you, I'm going to step away and we can't carry on this conversation right now because I'm emotionally charged. Because you take the lead or because you agree to respectfully disagree, that gives the other person permission to do the same. Mm-hmm. So I know you've worked with a lot of couples. I've worked with a lot of couples too. And a lot of like business partner relationships, and it can get sticky and hairy, particularly in times like right now. We're in quarantine. Our businesses are suffering. We're financially suffering. We're stressed out. Some people are homeschooling kids. There's all these additional stressors than the normal stressors. But the reality is when one person takes a breath and says, you know what? I'm too emotionally attached to this. I need to remove myself so we can actually discuss this rationally. Mm-hmm. It's leading by example. So what we're really talking about is communication is self-leadership. Mm-hmm. We have the respect for ourselves to say, it's not worth going to battle. I don't need any more knife wounds from your words. I'm going to take a breather. I'm going to collect my thoughts. I'm going to see what my intention is and what that I want to have heard, because obviously it's not being heard right now. And then we'll come back and reconvene later when both of us are in a space where we can have a calm, cool conversation and explore the opportunities. And by doing that, we model that. And it might be that, we're modeling that in front of our children. Mm-hmm. What do our children learn when we step up and do that? They learn that, I don't have to just hit or punch or shove or throw a temper tantrum or any of those things. I can actually remove myself and have some me time. Yeah. And then come back and set that boundary, right? It really is about setting the boundary and and showing up the way we want to show up in the world and leading by example.
Beautiful. I love the leading by example. You know, we want to tell people what to do. I hear that so many times, but are we actually doing it? Are we living in our authentic self? I had a conversation with someone today, a client today, and they were talking about, it was a business client, and they were talking about, you know, they don't feel like they're moving forward. They're not living in the authentic self. They don't really know what their vision is and what they want and why they want it. And it was like, you're trying to move forward. You're trying to move forward, even in a relationship, like you're trying to move forward, but you don't know where you're going. You know, it's a struggle, right? So get clear on what you want. Lead by example. And that means connecting to yourself. That means look at yourself first and your relationship. Think about what you want to be experiencing, how you want to experience your relationship. Like imagine it's 12 months from now. How do you want to be experiencing your relationships? How do you want to have that, you know, what do you want that partnership to look like? Do you want to go your separate ways, still stay in a family dynamic in the relationship and live separate lives? Because I hear a lot of that, right? There's different levels of relationships. Or do you want a true partnership, a solid foundation where you can move forward and have each other's back and be supportive of each other and be able to share anything, whether it feels good or not, and know that you're in a safe space, a non-judgmental space, and be clear on what you want. So if, for example, you're talking to your partner and you're not looking for guidance or advice, you just want to be heard, to vent, let them know. Be very clear on how you want to be seen and heard. Be very clear on what you need, right? I'll give you another example, an example of a relationship that I have with someone who constantly needs to feel validated. I know that. But before I knew that and understood that, it was a difficult relationship. And it wasn't an intimate relationship, but it was a difficult relationship. But now that I know that this person needs to feel validated, right? I might go a little bit above and beyond that I normally would and say, hey, you know what? I'm proud of you. I might say that a little bit more, right? I think it's amazing what you're doing. I think it's awesome how you've overcome that challenge. And look at you. You're living your goals. You're living your dream. Or just thank you for being open and vulnerable.
I love that so much. And so I want to speak, can we speak a little to the person who's listening to this and maybe they're in a situation and they're like, well, I'm stuck in this pattern. I keep attracting the person who I don't want. And we've talked a lot about how we have to be the person that we want to attract. Mm-hmm. So if we find ourselves in a pattern where we're always attracting the same kind of business partner, or we're always attracting the same kind of romantic partner or toxic friends, for example, and we just don't we fall into that same trap or that mindset. Can you speak a little to how can we become the person we want to attract and what that might look like?
Oh, absolutely. The first thing is stepping back and getting clear on what you want to be experiencing, what you want to feel, what you want your life to look like with and without someone. What does a true partnership mean? Really, clarity and a vision is the first step. You have to know and be very clear and specific what results you want. What is it that you want to be experiencing? How will you know when you have it? Right? And show up authentically, like live in that, what you're expecting others to show up for you, like you show up, like you want to show up for others, like you want people to show up for you. You show up fully. It doesn't mean you're going to be at 150% every day, but if you can give 100% of what you have at that moment, that's more than enough. And it's also okay to say, you know what? I'm just in a bad place today. I just need a minute. Mm-hmm. And say, you know what? We're not going to talk about this. We're not going to be here. We're not going to start anything right now. I just need some space. And clearly say it. It's the most powerful thing when you can learn how to clearly communicate and also get across your intentions. Like it's not about you. I just need some space so I can think clearly and really understand what I want. Otherwise, like we talked about last week, we're going to put on the boxing gloves and we're going to have a boxing match in the living room. It's going to be a big deal. It's going to turn
right. I really love that. And it's funny because for those of you who are in relationships where you're thinking, man, I'm too invested. It's easy. I'm miserable in my relationship because we don't have the communication that I want. I'm not getting what I want out of it. Maybe it's not physical and I want it to be. Maybe it's all about the physical and there's no emotional attachment side. Whatever you're wanting to experience but not experiencing, you're in that space and you're not ready to make a move out because you put too much or you feel like you've invested too much in it. Let's speak a little bit to that scenario, because that is really what's being brought to the forefront now that we're living 100% with the people who maybe we've put 15, 20 years raised children with, and we don't know that there's a possibility on the other side because we feel like we've put in so much time and work and it's just not working.
Yeah. And then that's, coming to the realization that it's no longer what you want. Here's the thing, 20 years ago, are you actually the same person as you are now?
No.
No. And for me, thank God. Right? Yeah. So
you know what? That is a critical point. And I'm not sure if we said this. Did we say that what's happening a lot of times, particularly with family dynamic, is someone is experiencing you the way you were when you were a child, or the way you were when you were like, think about when you're at that family gathering and that one uncle always makes that comment that makes you feel like you're 5 years old. He's still experiencing you when you were 5 years old and has forgotten that now you're 40, 50, I don't know, 30, whatever you are. And so it's important to know that we're not who we were yesterday, let alone 5 years ago. And a lot of times people that are in a tight relationship, or particularly with marriage, right? We're still experiencing and wishing for the man I fell in love with when we were, 22 years old. And now we're in our mid 40s. Well, that man has changed and you as a woman have changed. Mm-hmm. Right? We've both changed, but we still might be looking for what we were back then, but neither one of us are the same. Mm-hmm. So really getting honest and clear about who we are now. Yes. And honoring our growth and knowing that we might not have grown together. We might have grown like this, and that's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
I think that's a really hard thing to say, because in society, it's kind of like, it's a lot more normal to be divorced now, but it's still kind of like, oh, you didn't make that work. Like that mm-hmm. judgment creeps mm-hmm. in. And a lot of time it's our own stuff, but it's okay. If you still love someone, but you've grown apart, it's okay to acknowledge that. But that's the moment when we come together and we ask ourselves, do I still love this person? Do I love the person that they are right now? Do I love myself the way I am right now? And asking that person, do you still love me mm-hmm. the way I am right now? Do you love yourself the way you are right now? And if the answer to all of those things are yes, do we want to do what it takes to grow back together? Mm-hmm. Or do we want to acknowledge that while we love one another, being apart is the best next step?
I love that. And you have an opportunity here. If you still have that love for each other, right? And you can still separate and still have a love for each other. Right? The love and the passion, the intimacy and emotional, physical intimacy, all that could have dissipated, but you still have an underlying love for each other and respect and honor, or you can find that again, right? And that's okay. And you can move forward and have an amicable split, whatever you decide to do. If you both love each other and you want to try to make it work and you don't want it to be forceful or it really difficult, start back from scratch, look inward. What do you want to be experiencing going forward for yourself? What do you want to be experiencing in your relationship? Create that shared vision, but first connecting to who you are now. Because I know my wants and desires and needs were very different 25 years ago than they are today. Right? And so making sure that you are, and this is something that you can do every couple years. Even every 12 months, have a conversation on making sure that you're still aligned. I mean, you want to definitely do check-ins, making sure that you're both working towards that shared vision. And if you're not sure if you have that, start the conversation. It's about communicating, and it might look very different, right? Then you know how, and it's a little weird and scary and uncomfortable, but get ready to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's not easy, but it is worth it, because either way, when you have real, authentic conversations, deeping, meaningful conversations, you're either going to stay together and find happiness and find that path that create that shared vision and purpose, the why you both want it. There's that why, really key, right? Or you're going to separate, and that's okay. And you're both going to still understand the why. And you're going to appreciate and respect that and honor that. And you could still honor someone and separate. And it's okay. It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's not painful, but it's certainly okay. You know,
I love this. And this comes to another point, and that's, when do I know it is time to call it quits?
You have to be ready and willing, right? Ready for change, open to communicate and getting comfortable, right? When you're no longer willing to try because you feel like you've tried everything, then you're done, right? When you're done, you're done. When you're so emotionally detached, or if there's resentment, it's very hard to come back from that. And it may be, you know what, a lesson learned, and that's unfortunate. And it's also, you still have your life to live, right?
And I think we each deserve to be happy and to love the relationships that we are. Let's talk about a family dynamic real quick.
Yeah.
I know we're running short on time, but the same thing applies in family. As we transition from being children to being adult children, that's a difficult transition both on the parents and on the child. The child wants to be honored as an adult. They lack the experience. The parents still feel a need or a desire to protect their children, and they want to see, all they want is, what I truly believe is, parents just love their kids and want to see them successful in whatever that means. But the parent's idea of success is not necessarily always the same definition as the child's. And so if you are in that situation, what would you say to them applying these same concepts?
I mean, the first thing is really understanding. So if you, as a parent, and I've spoken to parents about this, and when I was coaching teens in the group, it was about communicating what you want and the why. It's all about understanding. And parents, you know, I really believe parents need to be receptive to the fact that their children are growing up and they're growing into themselves, and they're finding what they like and what they don't like, right? So let them grow and guide them, and trust that what you've given them and the guidance that you can continue to give is guidance, and it's not you have to do this or you have to be this, because you're then forcing someone to be someone that they're not. And you never, ever, I don't care who you are, you should never want to have someone be who you want them to be. If you really love and respect and honor that person, whether it's a child or, right, unless we're talking about children here growing up, then honor that, have the conversation. What do you want? Why do you want? And guide them and talk to them and really hear them. I heard many of the kids that I worked with when I was working with teens, that their parents just told them what they should and shouldn't be doing. They never really said, well, what do you enjoy? What do you like? Not never, but the most part of it, it wasn't that conversation. They might be young, they might be young adults, they might be kids, they might be teenagers, but guess what? They still have feelings. They still are learning, right? Their identity is formed based on their beliefs that they're learning through their experiences. So let them, with guidance, find themselves and guide them. You know, what is unsafe? Yes, you want to have that conversation. But is it really unsafe to find what they love and follow their dream? Well, it depends on what their dream is, right? So, but
we are not condoning becoming homicidal maniacs on this show.
Yeah. So step back and let them still be and try to find themselves with your guidance as a parent, the love and the respect and what you've taught them. Let them go and try it and see. And lift them up when they fall. And it's okay to fall. Lift them up
Right.
and be that support. You don't have to tell them, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that, be this person, say that, don't say, like, stop.
Right, because when you're trying to control all those things, and this I think is this is a very deep conversation, really.
Yeah.
One of the toughest things as a parent to learn with your adult children is they have to make their own mistakes, and we are doing them a disservice by not allowing them to fail forward on their own. What we're doing when we do that is actually disempowering them. And what I have found is that they stop trusting that they can make the right decision. Because what they think they want to do, you're telling them something different. So they become very non-functional adults when it comes to executive function and being able to make the right decision or the informed decision, because they just don't trust their own judgment. Right. And so as parents, it's incredibly important that we allow our children to fail forward and let them know that failure is actually not a problem, that's how we learn. And I've actually redefined failure. And failure to me, if this is helpful to anyone, failure is when we give up. Failure doesn't occur until we quit.
Yes.
Because the most successful people in the world failed 90 times before they find their success. And that success is what propels them. They learn from each failure. It's not the failure. It's not the falling. It's what we do to pick ourselves up that's most important. And if we as parents try to shelter and coddle too much, our children don't learn that skill set. Mm-hmm. Of course, Gina and I don't mind because it means we have clients for the next,
lifetime, right? Yeah. It is funny because I don't know that we ever had that in-depth conversation around failure. And I am so aligned with that. Like, I believe that failure means that you've tried something. Maybe it didn't work and you're going to try something else. Look at what went well, look at what you want to change or improve, and try something else. And you're going to continue to do that until you find what works for you and feel good. And you know what? That might be for a period of time, and then doesn't feel good anymore, you're going to try something else. And that's okay. I also agree with you. Failure is not doing. Giving up or not doing. It's not taking action. You're failing yourself. You're not giving yourself an opportunity to be or have. Yeah. And I know that we're at the top of the hour. Is there anything else that you want to say before we close out?
No, I think a recap is in order. I think I've been popping in the chat, the big pieces that we've been talking about. Do you want to just summarize and let's continue the conversation? How do we continue the conversation, Gina?
Yeah. So, what we talked about relationships. We talked about different aspects of relationships, intimate, family dynamics, business, right? All different kinds of things. Creating a shared vision. We talked about starting with yourself, understanding what you want, your vision, and why it's important to you. Understanding and having clarity on what experiences you want in your life with all different types of relationships. And then taking action, leading by example. Communicating clearly what you need and what you want, and also allowing someone else to communicate without putting the barrier up, right? Without pointing fingers, without assuming, just listening, sharing. Open the space for conversation, because guess what? We all get to be human. We all get to be somebody who has wants, desires, and needs. And part of that is being seen and heard. It doesn't mean we always want advice or guidance. Sometimes we just want to say what we have to say and be heard, and that's okay. Creating that space and really thinking about taking the actions that are aligned with what it is that you actually want, the expected outcome. What result do you want, and how will you know when you have it, right? And if you're going to have your relationship, you're going to decide, you know what, maybe you're going to create a shared vision and work together and move forward, or you're going to say, you know what, this is no longer what we both want, and it's okay. It doesn't have to be vicious and violent and mean and all the other things when people split. It can just be, you know what, we just don't want this anymore, and that is okay. We have the right to be who we want and be our authentic selves and live that way and fully show up, right? But come from a place of positive intention, love, not anger or frustration or resentment. Never come from that, because that will not do anything for you, right? So have conversations when you're calm, when you're clear, when your emotions are running high. Detach, right? We can sit here and talk forever about relationships and dynamics and boundaries. Like this is an ongoing conversation, you know. For us, we're going to send out an email. I'm going to attach the ultimate relationship scorecard to help you guys. For those of you who joined, and if you're in Facebook, pop it, either your email in a comment or message me, and I'll make sure that we get that out to you. Because it's for people on Zoom. I only have their contact information. And let us know what you need, right? If you're struggling, reach out to one of us or both of us, and I will share both of our contact information. There are some things that we're looking to do together, and we also have separate businesses. So if you want to have a conversation with either one of us, I'll share my contact information. I'll share Jen's contact information and the website and how to reach out to us, and we can have a conversation and see what that looks like. If you know somebody who's struggling and is not sure, again, we'll be happy to have a conversation, right? So Gina's cheat sheet relationship, yes, we will get it to you, absolutely. Perfect. So I just want to thank you so much for everyone who joined and engaged. I appreciate this. Jen, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with me and for all of us. I love and honor and respect you and cherish our friendship and our relationship. And I'm excited. I'm excited for how we show up. I'm excited for the authentic people that we are, and the no BS. I'm excited about having that because I think we need more people like that in this world. Real.
Oh, 100.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
So anything you want to share before we close out?
I just want to say thank you for bringing this discussion to light. It was a really important discussion to start. And I want to invite anybody who's watching or catching the replay, anyone who's on Zoom, anybody who's on Facebook, drop us a comment. If there is a question that you have regarding relationships, a scenario, something that you'd like a little more clarity around, let us know, because Gina and I are happy to come on and address frequently asked questions, things that come up, and we want to be here as a resource because this is a critical conversation and it does not get discussed enough. I've dropped my email, Gina has dropped hers. We are here to support and serve you. And Gina, I absolutely love and adore you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for this discussion. I think it just is absolutely necessary, particularly right now.
Thank you. Yeah. Have a great day. I will talk to you. I will talk to you this week. I love you, girl.
Bye.
Bye.